Hello and welcome again to Culture Corner. On today's program, we'll be talking and discussing the short film as a genre in light of the forthcoming weekend of short films on the... What's the dates exactly, Sarah?
March 24th to 26th.
Yes, there's a short film weekend called ShorterMatic at the Arts Picture House, Cambridge. Now, I have with me two of the chief organisers of the event. On the left is Sarah Gibson, and on the right, Sarah Wood. Now, first of all, could either of you give me a brief outline of what exactly will be happening over the 3 days? Because I believe it's a long weekend, isn't it? Friday to Sunday.
Okay, well, the 3-day structure really is Friday is a day of retrospectives. So we start off with a historical programme, looking back over the last century, or the first century really, of film, and seeing about all the different varieties of filmmaking techniques that apply to short film. And then in the evening we're having retrospectives of great contemporary European directors like Lars von Trier, Thomas Vinterberg, Eric Zonka, who made Dream Life of Angels, and a new Scottish director, Morag McKinnon. So that's very exciting. Friday is really a retrospective day. Saturday is a day full of looking at the links between short film, art and music, and we've got a great lineup of programs, video artists, pop promo makers, Spike Jones, whose film Being John Malkovich is coming out that week as well. We've got a retrospective of his films, lots of different eclectic mix on the Saturday. And Sunday is a day all about making films, how films get distributed in Europe. A very good day for anybody who's interested in making short films.
You've got a couple of workshops, I believe, so people can actually get hands-on involvement.
That's right. We have two workshops running over the weekend, a script writing workshop for anyone out there writing their first short films. We've got Dominic Powers from the National Film and Television School coming in to talk about short film and to look at people's scripts, which would be invaluable if you're writing something at the moment to get feedback. And also an animation workshop for kids and also an adult animation, when it's scratch animation, where you scratch direct onto film. So those will be very good, and those short animations will be shown on the Sunday morning for people who take part in the workshop.
So that's the overview. Now, Sarah too. What inspired the decision to organise and run a short film festival at the Arts Picture House?
Well, short film, it's very hard to exhibit short films, getting them exhibited within a cinema context as well. So festivals or sort of whole day sort of slots are usually the way that short films get to see the light of day, basically. And we got Martin Ayres at the Eastern Arts Board was very keen on having a short film festival. Obviously we used to have a feature film festival which finished in '97. They used to be at the Art Cinema, and everybody's sort of very much missing that festival. So we thought we'd start off maybe trying to launch a new festival with a short film festival. And it's also something Sarah and I have been particularly interested in. We also make our own short films. And we often go down to the Lux Centre down in London and the ICA, which are other two good national centres for seeing short films. And where we sort of looked at where we were at the year 2000 and looked at the sort of the various crossovers that we thought were around within culture between sort of music, experiment, fine art, and the sort of advertising world as well. I wanted to sort of try and just sort of throw together a whole bunch of different types of film styles and see what came out, really. Sort of the ShorterMatic idea is sort of like, you know, there's a real crossover and a real sort of cultural melting pot, to sort of coin a cliche, really, of work that we wanted to show.
Certainly when most of us refer to films nowadays, we tend to think of 90-minute or 90-minute plus features. Yet was this always the norm? Did the short film have its heyday in the past?
Well, short films have always been, I mean, Charlie Chaplin and Buster Keaton, I mean, they made their reputations in silent shorts. Obviously, with the silent era, most of the films were shorts there. Primarily, it was developments within technology that enabled feature-length films to be made, because there are various factors to do with the way films get made, to do with the lengths of cameras and the size of cameras rather than the lengths of camera reels, meant that most films had to be short. So short films were the first films. Features kind of came and developed, and then short films got sidelined a lot. But I think in the past sort of 20 years, with the sort of explosion with multimedia and communications, and especially in television and satellite and the internet, you know, short film form is sort of finding its feet again, I think, back in culture, because there are so many ways that you can see short films.
Yeah, one of the things I was interested to know is, do you think that there's an anticipated trend towards short films in the future? Will that be the new film form, so to speak?
Well, to a certain extent, I think people will never get away from loving narrative films. So feature films, I think, will always be what people go and pay money to go to at the cinema. But at the same time, short films do seem to match up with the sort of the energy and the speed of the modern age. So we do have a very sound-back culture, which and ideas are put across very quickly. And short film has the potential to do that. You can put across an emotion or an idea very fast through fast images and dispense, particularly with a heavy set narrative. So to a certain extent they do lend themselves, and I think, as Sarah was saying, the last 20 years you have seen a kind of explosion in short filmmaking again, and it being treated seriously, and people use it as a testing ground for honing their own directorial skills. And I think that if it's really a question of exhibition to make sure that those films get seen, enough people talk about them and like them as much as people like short stories in literature.
Certainly, as Sarah, you touched upon, technology has played a part, hasn't it, in the advance of the short film. Can you encapsulate in what way it has?
Well, as I said, I mean, early sort of film technology meant that short films were made rather than feature films. But I think in the past sort of 10 years, with the development of digital technology, again, it's made film production much more accessible to a much wider range of people now. It's obviously the cost. It's 9 out of 10 times everything's to do with costs. And digital video has enabled, there's so much access now to digital video equipment through various sort of community edit suites or schools or colleges, and just buying them privately, it's so easily and accessible that it definitely has had an influence. I think especially with groups like Dogma 95, which Lars von Trier and Thomas Vinterberg sort of...
Yeah, I was going to ask you about Dogma, because doesn't that involve a very sort of moving away from the very expensive, highly sophisticated form of filmmaking? It's sort of retrograde, isn't it, going back to the basics? Is that right?
Yes, pretty much. It's they're very against sort of high production values, really. What they've tried to forefront is performance and character, and strip down sort of filmmaking from all its sort of sometimes superficial concern with looks and appearances.
Would the Blair Witch project, would that constitute a form of dogma, or not really?
Well, I don't know. I think they really wouldn't call it dogma, because it was a fictional, very commercially sort of initiated concept film, and I think that it's a one-off. Whereas dogma has a rather sort of larger philosophy. I think that lots of different filmmakers with different stories to tell could apply to. Whereas I think Blair Witch is probably quite a one-off gimmick. The camera styles are quite similar, but...
You feature something on Dogma, I believe, don't you, as part of the film festival? I think I saw something in the programme.
We're showing the early shorts by Lars von Trier and Thomas Vinterberg, who are the kind of godfathers of Dogma. And I mean, it's very interesting to see what, in their early work, where their style came from for Dogma. And although I know both of them are now moving on to different projects, at the Millennium they both made a collection of short films on New Year's Eve night, as it came into the year 2000. Lars von Trier, Thomas Vinterberg and other Dogma directors made their sort of parting gift to Dogma, a collection of short films about the new century. So in a way it's a form that they started from and they've gone back to, so it'd be interesting to see the early shorts by the directors. So that's why we put it on.
Now, I believe that you'll be screening short films by, well, celebrated directors such as Derek Jarman, famous for Caravaggio, and Spike Jonze, who's recently released Being John Malkovich. Do you see any continuity between these directors' short films and their current feature, no, not current in the case of Derek Jarman, but their more recent feature films? Because like you're showing the short films. Yeah. Are the themes similar?
I think definitely, as Sarah said earlier, short films, although we'd want to not sort of hold on too closely to the idea that short films are merely a calling card for directors in order to be able to get contracts to do larger films. I think for the most imaginative and innovative directors of our times have sort of defined their visual language and their directorial sort of skills within a short film format, because being short films, being less expensive, you have more scope to experiment. You can actually try and, because a lot of the more imaginative directors are inventing new ways of telling stories visually and narratively. And obviously doing that within a short film form is much more it's easier and it's more viable than trying to do it in a feature, where there's so much money involved. So I think you can learn a lot about how a director has developed and evolved and how their styles matured or changed from looking at their early work and comparing it to their sort of features.
Certainly Derek Jarman is known for the experimental nature of his feature films. Do you see resonances of that in his short films?
Well, basically, his feature films are made up from a short film structure. So a lot of his feature films are made as short films which convey a particular emotion or image that is poignant for the rest of the film. And we made up on that structure of little short pieces.
Short films joined together to make a feature film.
Yeah, I suppose basically, and a lot of his, he started short film. The first time he ever got money for a feature film, he took this big bunch of Super 8 films, kind of cheap form them to make short films in, and just gave them to the Arts Council, and they looked at them and they had seen nothing like them before, the kind of playful nature of what he was doing, and so he was given money then to make a feature film. But his whole career was a great battle because people don't really like avant-garde filmmaking, particularly in this country, so it was a hard thing. But to make those short films on Super 8, as Sarah was saying, like digital video now is a cheap form, and to make those beautiful films, they're there. But definitely short films inform Jarman's work. The short structure does, and the same with Jane Campion. If you look at the way Jane Campion shoots a scene now, it's very like a whole short film in itself. She works in a very segmented way, so that you could take apart a Jane Campion film and a whole scene will be played out as though it's a short film. But someone where that isn't relevant is Stanley Kubrick. You look at his early shorts, that he made very early on in the 50s. They were kind of like B-movie clips that went before the main feature, and they're absolutely for the studio. They're very set pieces, and there's some kind of wit and lightness about them that you see in his feature films. So there's nothing like the kind of experimentation and challenge that there is in Clockwork Orange or Lolita. So it's kind of he needs a bigger canvas. But with someone like Jane Campion, you really see her hone her skills in short films and see it still applied. With Holy Smoke comes out next couple of weeks, you'll see the same technique used now.
Okay, well, on that note, we're going to a commercial break, and when we come back, we'll be discussing pop videos and whether or not they constitute art or advertisements. And we'll be discussing some of the makers of pop videos of groups such as Travis, Blur, and indeed James. So see you after the break. Welcome back to Culture Corner, where I'm talking to Sarah Wood on my right and Sarah Gibson on my left, two of the chief organisers of the up-and-coming Short Film Festival when is it, the 24th to the 26th of March. Yeah, that Friday confuses me, that long weekend. And the film festival is called ShorterMatic. It's taking place at the Arts Picture House, and well, it's really quite an event, as you'll already realise if you've been following the first part. Now, in relation to that, would you, in the context of other short film festivals, or indeed film festivals in England, is the up-and-coming Short Film Festival on a par with other festivals, would you say?
Oh yeah, it's better than other short film festivals. There's a tradition. There were two big short film festivals in this country. There's the Bristol Brief Encounters and also the British Short Film Festival, which is in London. It's coming up quite soon, I think. But what they do really is play new films. They play the new films from around the world by different filmmakers, established filmmakers and new filmmakers on different formats, and they're very comprehensive and very exciting. And they'll do brief retrospectives, but at the same time they're really concentrating on new work. And what we've done is tried to blend a mix of new work with historic work to try and build a debate about what short film means and build a context for short film discussion. There's always been a feature film festival in Cambridge until 1997, which was very popular and has a great reputation around the world. But we wanted to do a similar thing with short film and create the same kind of debates that went on at the feature film festival about the short film form. So hopefully it's a curious approach to short film, and I think it will come off. And it's certainly for all kinds of different people to enjoy, from general audiences, filmmakers, and anyone really who's interested in film would love the range of stuff that we've got on at the weekend. So
yeah, certainly the archive classics are something to look out for at the film festival. Now, an interesting feature of the festival is the study that you're including of promotional films such as pop videos, and the debate that you embark on as to whether or not pop videos constitute art or advertisements. What are the conflicting opinions on this?
Well, I guess since sort of the early 80s when MTV really sort of took off, pop promos just didn't exist. And I think that the two camps with pop promo productions are the productions are artist-led. Will Smith, and Fiona Apple and people like that who are they're stars. They want to look good, and the video's sort of a little bit in the background. So as a director, they're probably not necessarily very challenging because all you've got to do is really make your star look wonderful. And then the other camp, you've got directors who are often short filmmakers as well, who often write scripts.
For example?
There's John Hardwick, for instance, who's actually going to be coming to the promo event on Saturday at 7 o'clock. He's made short films that have been funded by the Arts Council of England and the British Film Institute, and he's made work with First Take, which is the regional Anglo Television's first new filmmakers initiative. He's made promos for the likes of Blur and Travis. He's made very high production value promos for them, but his sort of personal aesthetic as a director, his sort of identity that he's building up his reputation on at the moment is for quite sort of deadpan, strange sort of incidents about life that often quite shot in a very sort of low budget way. They're not sort of interested in making sort of things look visually stunning.
I know you've got an interesting anecdote to tell me about James.
Well, he just tried to do a video. He made a video for James, the band, which was the concept was loved by the record label and the artists themselves, and it was a very the idea was to shoot them being hypnotized in a church hall by a professional hypnotist, and being then asked to do certain things while under hypnosis.
Which they did, I believe.
Which they did, yes, but unfortunately they didn't like the end result because it wasn't very flattering to them, because John decided, he took an aesthetic decision not to have any extra lighting, just to use the worst location in the world, basically, which is a church hall with its natural sort of strip fluorescent lighting, which obviously did no favours, doesn't do any favours to anybody. It didn't do any favours to the members of the band, and the record label didn't like it, and the band didn't like it, and so it got cut to pieces, and it's not actually been aired, I don't think, today. But till this weekend, John's going to bring it and show it to us.
Oh, so we can see James in a bad light this weekend. Okay, so any James fans or any people envious of James, do come along and enjoy that. Well, keeping on the subject of anecdotes, I know you've got an interesting anecdote to tell me about Spike Jonze. Am I right?
Well, I was thinking, we were talking earlier about lo-fi videos, and Spike Jonze is the director of Being John Malkovich, but he started work making promos, and they're very anti the big mega bucks glossy video, and what he does is make things in a very kind of ad hoc way, kind of, on the spur of the moment. But the particular video that people talk about is the one he made for Fatboy Slim Praise You, and he and his friend Roman Coppola made this video just of the pretend dance troupe dancing outside a cinema in Los Angeles, dancing very badly, expressively to Fatboy Slim's Praise You, and then they just literally put the film together. Bad jogging suits being moved on by the police, all of it was recorded. They just gave it to Fatboy Slim and said, you can use it as your pop promo if you like.
So it was completely taking their whatever, yeah.
Is out of all those big dance numbers ever that you'll see for, I don't know, Missy Elliott kind of thing. So it was like, and then they gave it to Fatboy Slim. The punchline really is that then it cost more in clearances and everything than it would have done if they'd had a huge big budget video to start with. So it's ironic really that something really lo-fi and just a joke ends up very expensive. But I mean, Spike Jonze, we've got a program of his videos, and they're just so playful and funny and great. I mean, anyone who's seen Bjork's video for It's Oh So Quiet, or Daft Punk's video, he just gets people to dress up in stupid costumes like as a giant dog or a letterbox and dance around, and they're just a joke on the whole idea of what a pop promo should be, and also a sort of celebration of dance and
so people will be able to see those? The parodies. Taking the mickey was the expression I was looking for before.
If I'd just like to say one thing about the pop promo event. If anybody's interested in getting involved in pop promos, and it's really the event to go to, because it's very rare that you'll actually get successful directors actually sort of sharing some of their insights into the workings of making pop promos, because the key elements are the relationships between the artists, the commissioning editors at the record label, and the director, and it's that sort of little triangle, it's that relationship that really sort sort of defines what the end product is, and it's they're all very good speakers. So any budding film promo directors should come along to that.
Okay. Now, quite a weird treat. You're having another real character, so to speak, who's taking part in the film festival and indeed showing some of his work. Now, Jarvis Cocker, I understand, is coming along and introducing his own selection of outsider art. First of all, tell us something about Jarvis Cocker's contribution to the festival and indeed outsider art.
Well, Jarvis Cocker had a series on Channel 4 last year, really, where he went around the world looking at outsider artists who basically are artists who work outside the conventional art system. So they're people who just have a crazy vision of the world and run with it and kind of put together whatever they think is art and keep working seriously, considering themselves artists. And what he celebrates really in that is the spirit of the maverick artist, the person who thinks they're a genius, the person who thinks they have an original idea and goes with it. There's so many things to stop people in life doing what they want to do and following that urge that he tries to show, well, that there is this potential to live your whole life as an artist. I mean, it's more complicated than that, and he'll explain it over the weekend about the kind of work that he's talking about.
Yeah, I believe there's a question and answer session with Mr. Cocker.
Yeah, he's going to screen work that he considers to be the best examples of outsider filmmaking, which is something he's never talked about before, a real coup for Cambridge. And he's going to talk about outsider film and what merits outsider film. And we're showing a film by the artist Joseph Cornell, which is a piece of found film where he intercut different scenes into a 1940s kind of musical about the South Pacific with his own images. It's a complete joke and pastiche on that. And it's completely idiosyncratic and something that's away from any kind of system that's controlled it.
Will Jarvis Cocker be showing any of his own movies that he's made? Has he made any movies? I understood he was showing some of his own movies. I may be wrong.
They're not his films, but he works very closely with a friend of his, and they who has made a film which they're going to take extracts from over the show at the weekend. I think also his director friend's going to be there, so they'll talk about that and the whole process of making films. But to a certain extent, it is what's happening at the moment. It's what we've been talking about all along, this kind of low-tech approach. You can just take a camera and go and shoot stuff. But what Jarvis Cocker said in the Outsider Art Programme was that it's actually taking yourself seriously. It's not just quantity of stuff that you can take easily. It's living that commitment to your own artistic vision and bringing something together, and that's what he's going to talk about, that kind of eccentric and potentially inspirational approach.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it sounds like the weekend could inspire a lot of potential filmmakers with the passion that they need, especially in such a current commercial age. Well, anyway, on that note, we do need to close very shortly, so finally, I'd just like to say there are a few interesting workshops going on. There's a writer short film script workshop, a scratcher film workshop, and a children's workshop also. And so finally, could one of you just give any of our viewers the details, if they're interested in coming along to the Short Film Festival, what they have to do, who they have to contact, a little bit about price, etc.
Okay, I'll do the selling. Okay, you have to come along to the Arts Picture House, the lovely cinema in the middle of town on St Andrew Street. We have actually had to make this a club-only event, so you have to become a club member of ShorterMatic, which costs £1, and for that £1 you'll be entitled to come to all our screenings throughout the year and also have access to the films at the weekend. After that, you can just buy tickets for individual events. They cost £3.50 during the day or £5 in the evening, concessions £3 in the day. Or you can buy a weekend pass, which is a real bargain, because for some money...
For £25, I read the programme.
For £25, you can have a weekend pass which entitles you to all the Saturday and Sunday screenings, festival screenings, which saves you a huge amount of money if you're going to...
But you have to hurry, because there's a limited number, I believe Sarah told me before.
There's a limited number of passes, and it's a real big treat. If you want to lock yourself in the cinema for a weekend and have a good excuse, this is the one.
Okay, and any questions, a phone number people can ring for details, the Arts Picture House?
Yeah, well, for workshops you can contact me, which is 579-127, that's Cambridge. And you seem to be handling most of the press at the moment, don't you?
Oh, and for the box office, box office, if you want to buy tickets, it's 504 444. Yeah.
Okay, well, we're all out of time, so that's all for Culture Corner today. But do keep a lookout for the Short Film Festival, ShorterMatic, and do participate if you can. Thank you. See you on Friday.
Let's get